We recommend this product be installed by a competent gunsmith.
Modification of your firearm may nullify the warranty of the firearm's manufacturer.
No liability is expressed or implied for damage or injury which may occur from improper use or installation of this product.
You are responsible for the safe handling, legalities, and use of your firearm.
Warning: always wear safety glasses when working on firearms.
Hey guys, I'm back with another install video from Apex Tactical. Today we're going to walk you through the installation of the MRAT Compensator for the FNX-45 series pistols. The only tool you need for the installation is a 1/16 inch hex wrench. In this case, you also see I have a soldering iron on the table. This is because you might need to remove the compensator in the future for maintenance and things like that. Also, one thing to have handy would also be a bench vise. Makes life a little easier. One more thing you're going to need is some rubbing alcohol or some kind of a solvent. You can use acetone or something like that. Also, we're going to use a towel, and that's just going to be to clean the threads and make sure everything is good to go. This kit includes a small vial of Vibratite 122, which is the thread locker we're going to use, a recoil assembly complete with a guide rod, a cap, and a spring, and this is required for function with the compensator, otherwise your slide's not going to cycle properly. A pair of brass tip set screws and a compensator in either black or FDE. You only get one. You know, they say the devil's in the details. Well, here's the devil. So what we need to do is we need to prep all the components before installation. So the barrel has been taken out of the gun following the factory field stripping recommendations. I have the compensator and the pair of set screws here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe any excess oil off the barrel and off my tabletop because I left some on the table there. Just take the oil off. From here, I'll leave this on the table so I don't make a big mess. I'm going to use my rubbing alcohol and I'm going to clean the threads. I'm just going to hit them with some of the alcohol, and then I will wipe the threads carefully, getting any oil, any and all oil I can out of here. The thread locker that we provide is actually pretty good for use with oils. However, we always want to make sure we clean things best we can. Now, if the barrel's been prepped, I've got enough material, oil off the front. I also have the threads as clean as they're going to be. You could go in and psychotically clean them, but it's not necessary. Just wipe them down with some alcohol, they'll be fine. On the compensator, we're going to do the same thing on the inside. I'm going to spray some stuff inside here. Get out of the way. And I'm just going to try to wipe out whatever I can with the end of my towel. If you want to get in there with Q-tips, you certainly can do that too. But just trying to get any of the oils and other things from the processing and the manufacturing process out of the way. If you grab a Q-tip, you can also get into the threaded holes that are on the bottom for the set screws. There's one on either side of the spring box. Same kind of thing in there. I'm going to do that off camera because I need to go find Q-tips. There are two screws in the kit. I'm only going to show you one because it's the same process for both. I'm just going to hit that with a little bit of the rubbing alcohol and just wipe it down with my towel. Same kind of thing. Just follow the unscrew, the counterclockwise motion, and get any of the extra junk and color and crap out of the screw. Get the screw nice and clean. At this point, you try not to touch the components so you don't get them any more dirty than they need to be. But if once both screws are cleaned and the compensator and the threads, ready to put it all together. Before we go adding the thread locker to the screws, I'm going to do a quick test fit of the screw into the compensator. That's just a real fast, make sure it screws in, and if you look around on the inside, make sure you guys can see it on camera here, you can see the screw popping through all the way. That's just going to put a little tension against the barrel while the thread locker dries. So I'll take that one out, I'll grab the other screw, and I'll do the same thing. And the idea is just to verify 100% that the screws are good and the holes in the compensator are good before you start applying thread locker that's going to dry out on you. So here we go. We're in. We're good to go. So I'm going to back that guy back out. Now, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and put thread locker on the screws themselves. The thread locker top, real easy twist off, should pop right off, and then you get a little bit of blue popping out, which means it's got an open hole. Perfect. And I'm going to put a nice size drop on the threads. And it's a fair amount. Basically, this is going to, when it hits the threads, it's going to soak in down around the threads, and that's what you're looking for. We'll put that into the compensator, and I'm just going to screw it in until I can see that it's barely sticking in to the hole. I'm going to go ahead and back it out about a half a turn so that the tip of the screw is behind the inside wall where the barrel goes. I'll set this one aside, and I'll do the same thing on the other screw. I'll put some blue thread locker on that guy also. A good sized drop of it on there. And then put it in the other side of the comp, and then those screws are both ready to go. You've got about a half hour to an hour working time with this stuff. We have plenty of time to get this done, so don't stress about it. Now, if you look inside the compensator, you've got a dead space from the back edge all the way into the threads, and that compensates for the stick out length of the barrel And that's because when they design these barrels, they have to make sure that if they stick a suppressor on here, the guide rod doesn't stick out and hit that suppressor. So stick out in the barrel is appropriate and necessary. We're just going to work with that. So essentially our compensator goes on all the way to the dead space. So we'll do a quick test fit of this as well. Screw it all the way on. Now remember, you're going to have to push the barrel out of battery a little bit and screw this guy all the way down. Here's the thing. We do not have the compensator timed to the threads. I have not seen any barrels that have timed threads that will work every time. So we're not going to bother timing them. What we're going to do, we tighten it on until it stops, we back it off until it's straight with the barrel. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put the barrel back in battery, and now I've got it set up so now I can rotate it straight. But we're going to do a couple of cautions before we proceed. I want to show you the gap between the slide and the compensator. This gap is 100% necessary and has to remain. It can be shorter or longer, and that depends on the threads in the compensator and the barrel being timed, rotated to one another. So what you're seeing here is a gap between the barrel and the compensator. The slide and compensator. You have to have a gap. When the slide cycles, the barrel comes out, and when it comes back in, it cannot touch the compensator to the barrel ever, or to the slide, excuse me. And the reason for that is, if the compensator contacts the slide, the velocity at which they contact will eventually cause the threads to rip right off the barrel. Like literally the front of the barrel falls off. We don't want that. So in this compensator, this happens to be one of the perfect storm type ones as I would describe it. If I push the barrel back out of battery a little bit and I tighten this back down one full turn, as I come back into the slide, I try to align it so you can see it here, I can almost, this is really hard to do on camera, I can almost see a gap all the way through it. All right, there you can mostly see it. That might work, but here's the thing. We build these tabs into the side of the compensator for a reason. It closes the gap and it looks better. So my recommendation is back that guy off and expect to have a little bit of space between the two components. This is a gun, it's a functional item, it's a tool. This is not a Mona Lisa or other art piece necessarily. So a little bit of gap's not gonna hurt anything. And we want that gap. That gap is necessary. So as long as the compensator never actually touches the barrel in cycling, or when you put it back in the battery, that's what you're looking for. So we're gonna plan to screw the compensator all the way on and then back it off a quarter turn till it's flat, then one full turn into this same position when we go to seat it. Okay, I've got my barrel all cleaned and prepped and we're ready to start putting thread locker on. My recommendation for gluing on or thread locking on the compensator is we're gonna put thread locker on the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock positions on the barrel. And then on the compensator, we're gonna go at the 12 and 6 o'clock positions. The idea is that when you screw it together, it all mixes up and it fills the threads with thread locker. And now everything is tight. So on the barrel itself, real straightforward. We're gonna go ahead and just put a big long stripe the entire length of the barrel, the entire length of the threads. A little more here at the front. I'll flip it over and quite literally rinse, repeat. Nice big trail of it on there. It looks like my thread locker was actually a little bit unmixed. So I'm gonna go back to the other side here and make sure I get a little more of the dark blue on it. So plenty of it on there. A big glob won't hurt anything. Anything that gets out, we're gonna go ahead and wipe off when we're done. I have the compensator here. I've got it facing down. So I'm gonna go in here. You're not gonna be able to see it real easily, but I'm gonna go in here with the thread locker and put a nice big stripe on the inside of the threads on the compensator. A little weak there, go a little more. There we go, whoops, too much. I can see it kind of globbing off the end of my compensator, so I'm gonna use gravity to kind of make it fall. But I got plenty of it on the threads there. Turn over 180, do the same thing. And now I've got adequate supply. A little bit of blue in here is not gonna hurt anything. It's a little bit on the dead space in the compensator. I'll just go ahead and wipe that guy out, but it wouldn't hurt to have in there regardless. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the vise and put it all together. Now that we have thread locker on both the set screws, the barrel and inside the compensator, we're gonna go ahead and assemble it. So in this case, you're gonna need to, I have my vise held in, my barrel slide, held in my vise. And I've got some tape on the jaws just so I don't damage my finish. I'm gonna pull the barrel up out of battery, push it forward so it's out of the way. Go ahead and put the compensator on here. I'm gonna go ahead and just start screwing it on. And again, like we discussed a minute ago, we're gonna thread the compensator all the way on until it stops. It'll hit that stop point in a second, there it goes. I'll back it off to where it's straight and then one full turn counterclockwise to my new position. Now, from here, now it's just a matter of alignment. So I'm getting my slides getting a bit loose. So I'm gonna move my slide on my vise here. We'll reposition the camera so you can see better. As we get into the alignment of the compensator to the slide, I want to point something out. If I grab my compensator now and rotate, the whole barrel moves. That's not going to work long term. So what you need to do is grab the chamber section, just press it into the slide. While you're there, then you can align your compensator to the orientation it needs to be in. So we're going to zoom in on the compensator and show you the rest of the front stuff. But I want to make a note that I am squeezing the chamber section of the barrel into the slide to keep it rotated straight, essentially. Then I'll work on the compensator orientation. The orientation my compensator is in now is definitely clocked out of position. So I'm going to squeeze the chamber into the slide to keep rotation. Then I'm going to go ahead and bring the compensator around and rotate it where it looks straight. Now, the nice thing is the spring box area of the slide, this guy down here, and the spring box area of the compensator should match up pretty well. So as I'm going here, I can feel the gap on either side here and here. I'm a little off, so I'm going to rotate back. And I got to make sure I don't rotate the barrel also. I just want the compensator to move and let the barrel stay in place. Sometimes you kind of got to break it free and move it around. We are working with the thread locker on here, so it's gonna start closing up on us. Right now I feel an equal gap on both sides. I'm going to pull this out of the vise and rotate around so you can see. And I'm going to try to basically get you a view up here on the top. And it looks, you got a little gap as expected. But if you look down the muzzle, as you can see, I've got the top flat of the barrel and the compensator kind of aligned. It looks in frame like I'm a little off. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate that guy. Try to get it where I've got it fully aligned. So it looks like I've got a completely flat top. And once it looks like it's aligned, I'm going to go ahead and look from the bottom and I'm going to check the gap between the compensator and the slide and make sure I'm not actually touching the slide. Now, I can also look down the front of this guy, and you can't really see it here. I'm trying to give you a view of it though. I can also look at the rails here and here on the compensator versus the slide. So I have a little bit more rotation to do. So I'm going to put it back in the vise and I'm going to realign it. And just make sure I've got it straight. And then we'll set the set screws in place. So holding it down at the bottom, I'm going to get that guy. Actually, it's pretty darn aligned. It looks pretty good. Just how holding the barrel in place and then checking that stuff. So from here, I'll take my 16th-inch hex wrench and I'm going to very lightly touch the first screw down. And you'll feel it when it touches down. It just touches the barrel. Same thing on the opposite side. Just very light. Come on now. Doesn't want to move. The thread locker is starting to get a little tacky on me. Get that guy in there where it touches down. I'm going to go a little more torque on that side. Get the screw out of there. And I'm going to go a little more torque on this side. You get the idea. Back and forth. We'll go down until it's basically in. I do not have a torque spec for you. It's basically going to be snug, which is essentially touch the screw down and give it a little bit of twist, a little bit of English, as they say, and that should be it. The idea is that that's going to hold everything in place while things cure. And from here, we need to let this cure for 24 hours. I'm hoping we can put big 24 hours across the top of the screen, maybe 24 hours cure time before you shoot it. We don't want the vibration to back the screws off or the compensator before it cures. The included thread locker takes 24 hours to fully cure. Let it cure. So do not do this right before you're going to go to the range. Do this a day before you're going to the range with a little bit more time to do the installation. With the compensator installed, with the set screws in place, all with the thread locker in, and I have a little gap between the slide and the compensator, now I'm ready to put the recoil assembly in. Remember, the kit comes with a recoil assembly already pre-made by us. This is necessary for proper function. The factory recoil assembly is built for a non-compensated pistol. The compensator eats up so much recoil, the factory recoil system won't work. You need to use our aftermarket one that comes with it. From here, we'll go ahead and start doing some cleanup on the thread locker. After we have the compensator in place with the thread locker still curing, we need to get the excess thread locker out of the way. Last thing we want is a glob to fall into the line of the bore. So I'm going to go with a Q-tip from the front and just wipe out and clean out whatever I can that's on there and get it out of the way. I'll take a couple of these to get in there and just take away the excess material and make sure we don't have any globs in this direction. It just takes a couple minutes to wipe it out. That's all it really is needed. So I'll go inside and kind of wipe the bore itself and wipe the front edge of the barrel. And this is going to be a little bit on there, but that's not going to hurt anything. The idea is we don't want a big glob hanging down in front of the actual bore and causing a problem with the bullet. So from here, it might be best to actually flip it back over. In my case, I'll take the guide rod off, and look down the bore and make sure nothing is obstructing. In my case, looking straight down the bore, I see nothing down the bore is in the way. If there were, I'd go in there with a Q-tip and clean it out. Okay, from here, we're ready to go ahead and put the slide back on the frame, and then we're gonna check cleaning and clearances to make sure everything else is good. So I'll go ahead and slide this guy back on, go ahead and put my takedown lever back up. Now, from here, I'll lock it back, and I wanna look at the gap between the slide in the frame, or the compensator and the slide, just to make sure I've got nothing else in there. So I'm gonna take my Q-tip and go ahead and clean out any excess thread locker that's on that surface and get it out of the way, because again, that'll kind of glue things together. I'll check the top, I'll check the bottom, make sure everything in there is clean, and if we're good to go, now we're ready for our 24-hour curing time. The thread locker requires 24 hours. You need to let it cure before you go shoot it. Don't take it out to the range, don't go dry fire and play with it. Set it up. I recommend putting it back in basically the decocked, unloaded, and storage configuration essentially, and put it away for 24 hours. Let it cure before you shoot it. Let's talk about how to remove the Apex compensator. Say you want to remove it because you don't want to use it anymore, you want to put a suppressor on, you want to thoroughly clean things. How do you remove it? Well, we put a lot of thread locker into the screw and onto the barrel itself. So here's the method to use. I have here a 60-watt soldering iron I bought on the internet. It's got a little rheostat on it for power. Right now I've got it cranked up to maximum 450 degrees, which is more than enough. I'm doing this cold. I do not have the soldering iron turned on. I'm not burning myself, mostly because I did this a couple days ago. I didn't prep one for this video that's all assembled, and it works fine. I just don't have it set up. It's easier to do on camera without the extra heat. So with the soldering iron on and heated up, we're going to take off the screws first. We want to get the screws heated up and removed, and then we'll work on the compensator itself. So I'll take the tip of the soldering iron and basically put it on the tip of the screw and just hold it there. Let it sit for about a minute. Watch your clock, whatever you want to do. Count to 60, count 1/1000ths for all I care. Get it about a minute to heat up. Once that's done, set your iron aside safely so you don't burn something. Take your Allen wrench, get in there, make sure it seats in deeply, and gradually unscrew, and you should feel it pop and kind of do a little tick, and then allow it to unscrew. Get that screw all the way 100% out of the compensator so it's completely out of your way. Once that's out of the way, then we'll work on the opposite side. Same kind of thing on the opposite side, so rinse, repeat over there. Once that's done, we'll do the comp. My recommended method for getting the compensator heated up and off of the barrel is as follows. I'm gonna basically push the barrel out of battery so it sticks down as much as possible out of the slides, basically right about there. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna clamp the chamber section in my vise. Make sure you're clamping the barrel only, not the slide. The slide should still have movement to it as it is. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this guy down. I'm gonna take my soldering iron and I'm gonna put it down the bore and let it sit there for 5 minutes. Set a 5-minute timer and we're gonna let that thing heat up. Once it's heated, we're gonna take a crescent wrench, or in this case, an adjustable wrench, put it on there and we're gonna loosen it up. I've allowed my compensator and barrel to heat up with the soldering iron for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the soldering iron out, set it aside safely so I don't burn anything. I'm gonna take my wrench with some tape on the end and I'm gonna put that on the compensator and I'm gonna give it a twist and I'm gonna unscrew the compensator as far as I can and continually, if possible, to get it loosened up off the barrel. From here, it should be completely loosened up, almost. Remember, the compensator barrel is gonna be hot, so don't burn yourself. Luckily, there's enough dead space on the compensator, the comp can just kind of hang out on the ends of the threads. I'll grab a towel, hang on to it, and I'll take it off and set it aside. At this point, you've got a warm compensator and a barrel. Now, the nice thing is, the bottom of the barrel, which is grabbed in my vise, is not hot, so I'm holding that part and push it back in. From here, I've got all the extra schmutz on there from the thread locker. So I'm gonna take my towel and just kind of wipe it and get it off there best I can. You might wanna take a wire brush and clean it off the best you can as well. Same thing in the compensator. You might wanna go in there and do some brushing and cleaning and some scraping to get the material out. While it's warm is gonna be the best time to do that as well. As you can see, the installation of the MRAT is pretty straightforward, but I want to remind you of a couple of quick things. Clean the components before you install them, otherwise oil gets in the way and will cause it not to cure. Number two, make sure you use the thread locker when you put it all together. Now, you don't need to use all the thread locker. There's a large vial, you only need maybe 10 and 12% of it like I did in the video. So the rest of it, you can cap it and use it for something else, toss it, whatever you want to do. You don't need all of it, just use the amount I used in the video roughly, and you should be fine. The recoil assembly. Use the recoil assembly because the one included with the compensator is appropriate to make it cycle properly. If you use the factory one, it's not going to cycle properly because the factory recoil assembly is not built around a compensator. Make sure you let the thread locker dry for 24 hours. Install it, set it all up, basically set it just like this, unloaded, put it away for 24 hours. Let it all cure before you shoot it. That's the biggest thing I can remind you, because you don't want to go out to the range and have the compensator rotate on you slightly and then hit your slide or something goofy. Cure for 24 hours first. If you have any questions or concerns, contact our customer service. That's what we're here for. If you like this video and the other stuff we do, by all means, please like, share, and subscribe. One more thing I wanted to mention. 2 of our testers out there have over 2,000 and in almost 3,000 rounds on their compensators, and so far they absolutely love them. No malfunctions, no feeding issues, no issues whatsoever. They've tested as much ammo as they can get their hands on, different varieties. They've had all their friends shoot it. One gentleman's wife weighs about 90 pounds and she's loving the thing. So it's been a great product so far for those guys, and I hope you guys really enjoy it as well.